This may seem somewhat redundant, but this will be helpful to any of my new subscribers. So, what I'm going to address here is the prophecy about wormwood found in Revelation 8, verse 11. Now, it specifically speaks of a star, which would be a comet, an asteroid, that would be called wormwood, and that it would impact the earth. Understand that it would impact the earth. Now, impact has two definitions. It doesn't actually necessarily mean that it would strike the earth, actually come into physical contact. It just simply means it would impact the earth. Now, this star, it clearly says, would have an impact on the waters. To be very specific, the waters. So many of these things had been misinterpreted for years until I came along and properly correctly retranslated the mistranslation that was wormwood. That was actually a mistranslation. That word, the original word, is actually leana, and it means to be cursed with a bitter curse, to be cursed with bitterness. And they automatically assumed, because it speaks of the waters, that it would be a comet that would fall into the waters. That's what the original translators believed it to mean until I came along and correctly translated it. The only way you get a full idea of what wormwood actually means is if you go to the previous translation of it, where it's spoken of for the second time in the Old Testament, which is found in Jeremiah 23, verse 15. This entire chapter is discussing and addressing false prophets. This entire chapter deals with false prophets, and it's speaking of wormwood, that the Lord would feed them with wormwood. This is how you begin to understand what it means. What I showed and revealed is that the waters don't actually represent literal waters. They represent the people, multitudes, nations, and tongues. This was the hidden meaning that Jesus showed to John, Revelation 17:15. So when it speaks of waters being poisoned, it doesn't mean actual literal waters. It means the peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. The reason I'm addressing this is because we have a documented history of Tom Horn's false teachings and failed false prophecies about wormwood. He wrote these two books before I wrote my books on wormwood. The incredible part behind this is we have a documented history of what his two books, previous books, discussed. How he said that the comet Apophis would hit. His first lie was that it would hit somewhere along the California and Mexico border. Then he started propagating the idea or the lie that it would hit the Pacific Ocean, when in fact the waters don't represent actual literal waters. It was my prophetic wisdom that showed what the waters actually are: the peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. The incredible part behind this, he wrote these two books before the pandemic and the old Jabiru, the snake bite that came out. Then I wrote my books and released my prophecies and my corrected translation. And when Thomas Horn saw that I was accurate and I was correct in my translation, he decided he didn't even have enough time to write a book. He made a movie. He made an incredible movie with the help of his crony, Derek Gilbert. and Josh Peck. They made an incredible movie, and that movie just so happens to exactly match my prophecy in my copyrighted books. And the incredible part is now you're seeing Thomas Horn is dead because he violated Jeremiah 23, verse 30, and stole the prophetic word from me. This is the result of what happens when you violate the very holy word of God. Death has came to Thomas Horn for his actions, and he sits